you know that feeling when you're like really struggling and trying to figure out the answer to a problem and you're just at your computer, your desk, and you're grinding, and it's harder and harder. And then you step away from your desk and you take a shower, you walk outside, you walk to the kitchen, and all of a sudden the answer comes to you. That's a sabbatical, like times 10, right? We are just going to make much different choices and see much different, better opportunities when we're coming from a place of rest, relaxation, spaciousness, and are not mired in the anxiety and busyness of our current day-to-day miasma. You're just going to see different possibilities. And I really credit my sabbatical that I took over 10 years ago at this point for being the unlock. Many, many times I tried to leave corporate, jumping out and jumping back in, dipping a toe out and jumping back in. And it was really my sabbatical that gave me the space to get on my path as a career coach, business owner, and finally, truly for real this time, leave corporate and, begin the rest of my life. The first thing I want to share with you is your sabbatical is your sabbatical. And I really want you to feel empowered and, what do I want to say, unencumbered to have any goal for your sabbatical other than what you want to do, rest and relaxation. When I went on my sabbatical, I was exhausted. And we'll come on to this in a moment, but everyone knew I was going to go on sabbatical for a full year before I actually went on sabbatical. And so everyone, no shade to them, they were excited about it. And so they'd be like, oh, are you going to teach English as a second language? Are you going to swim with the dolphins? Are you going to communicate with the apes? And I was just like, kind of shriveled and dying inside because I was like, no, I just want to sleep. Like I have no energy to do those things. And so I really invite you, if you have the space and you want to do those things, great, do them. But so many people I talk to come into coaching already either on the cusp of burnout or already burned out. And so if that's where you find yourself, please, please, please do not put additional pressure on yourself or absorb it from others that you have to learn how to code or take a class or learn a new language. Again, if those things bring you joy and recharge you, amazing. And also I invite you into what I think is the true benefit of sabbaticals, which is not really having a goal at all. There's a link that I want to share with you from a TED Talk from someone called Stefan Sagmeister. He, every 7 years, shuts down his entire design studio. So everyone leaves. For a year, they shut down. And I believe they went to Bali. And they used that, they just chilled out. No business meetings, no creative sessions. And it ended up fueling the next 7 years, the ideas that came to them, the designs that came to them as a result of doing nothing, of just being and living and observing. And speaking of spaces, kind of inhabiting a different space from New York City, that fueled their entire design vision for the next 7 years, at least for the next year. And so that is one of the most, I think, misunderstood and overlooked benefits of sabbaticals is that there is real power in not having goals or, kind of a stated objective driving you. And that certainly was the case for me. I literally, other than visiting the places I wanted to visit, I had one goal. I wanted to learn to like beer. I didn't like drinking beer at the time. Partial fail. I only like IPAs. I invite you to step into what it could look like to fully allow yourself to recharge, especially if you were already running on empty for the reasons that I gave before. So a little bit about kind of how I structured mine, because I hope it has some good ideas that you might benefit from. So I came to my sabbatical idea because I just gotten promoted. Long story short, we just had to do a ton of work to get me promoted. And so by the time I got promoted, I was already exhausted. But because I had gotten promoted, I was like, I kind of want to prove myself at this level. And so I went to my boss and I said, I want a sabbatical. I will deliver this agenda. Give me a year. I'm going to crush this. And I want to go in a year. I want to go on sabbatical. And my boss, to his credit, said, go now. But I really felt like I wanted to deliver. And interesting side note, I crushed those goals. I felt so good about crushing those goals. It did drive me further into burnout. So by the time I was ready to go on sabbatical, I had nothing left. And interestingly enough, I remember none of those goals. I have no recollection of them. And I'm sure Like there is no legacy that I've left behind. I'm sure there's no remnant of the output of those goals. So just food for thought if that's one of the things that's keeping you there, which I think is a great segue into one of the things I do hear from people a lot, which is I'm sure you play a really crucial role, right? You probably have a team and peers and bosses that depend upon you. And so I think sometimes it can cause some friction or reluctance to, kind of what happens to them. I don't want to let them down. And so one of the ways that I structured it with my boss is that we did like a trial run. So the first leg on my journey, I'm going to mess up the dates a little bit, but I think it was early in the year, let's call it January, February. I went to Thailand and Cambodia for I think about 3 weeks. And we used that time to trial run what is it going to look like? And so this gave us the opportunity to kind of, allow people to step up and kind of see what broke and what worked well. And I'm glad we did that because apparently things did not go well. And then had about 6 weeks, let's say, to kind of fix things and move people in different places and kind of change processes. And then that kind of set me up to kind of fully let go on my sabbatical. So Thailand was a vacation, and then my sabbatical was Hawaii, 2 islands in Hawaii. I drove the Pacific Coast Highway from LA to kind of north of San Francisco. So a good chunk of it, not all of it, but a good chunk of it. And I went to the Grand Canyon. And to the points that I made before, like a lot of that time, I just slept. I remember being in like really nice hotel rooms and just ordering room service and watching shows on my iPad and sleeping. And that's what I needed. And again, I remember feeling some guilt at the time that I wasn't doing more with it. Now in hindsight, I'm like, thank goodness. A, it was exactly what I needed. And B, I wonder, who knows, but I wonder had I filled that time with stuff to do if I would have opened up the space to kind of figure out some of the answers. And then at the end, I spent a fair amount of time in New York just chilling, which was great, just enjoying New York. So I organized it with my boss that I would go back to my old role. It would be there for me so I could collect salary and, have my benefits, but that we would have my successor already in the role. And so I would really be using that time internally to do job search to figure out my next move internally. So really credit to my boss. I mean, it ended up being about a year-long runway, which was good because, I still feel like I was not even fully recovered energy-wise after that sabbatical. But at the end of it, before I went back to that old role, that's when I got the idea to impulse enroll in coaching school. So it was not this thing that I had this grand plan or had this idea and I used my sabbatical to really think and research. It was an idea that was not there prior to my sabbatical. And then on my sabbatical, somehow, literally it was an impulse buy. I Googled, I found the first program. I did have a phone call with someone and then I paid in full. That part I don't necessarily recommend. So let's also talk about some nitty gritty and logistics here. So one thing I do hear from people is, what does this mean for my resume? So, how do I talk about this gap? And honestly, the shortest answer is I would really encourage you not to worry about it. Whether you are taking a sabbatical, certainly if you're taking a month-long sabbatical, that's basically a holiday. But even if you're taking like up to a year, people leave their careers, like they leave the entire workforce for much longer than that, decades, and then they come back. No problem, right? And so I really encourage you to think of this sabbatical in 2 ways. Number one, it is a blip. It is a blip on the radar of a decades-long career. And so no person that you want to work with or for is going to challenge you for taking a break in a 40 years long career. And if they do ask, it's probably just from excitement and interest in terms of what you did on sabbatical. And then also I want you to think about this in terms of you are going to learn things on your sabbatical. You are going to get clear on things that are important to you. You are going to learn valuable lessons. I mean, I think traveling is always a learning experience anyway, right? We really get to know ourselves when we travel. Personal growth and kind of the reflection that you're allowed to do for yourself and the dreaming you're allowed to do for yourself when you give yourself this greater space outside of the day-to-day. Trust. There will be a story that can be told. Coaches, people like me, we are great at helping you tell the story. So logistics, let's kind of talk about salary and benefits and different options. So if your organization already offers a program, great. You are most of the way there. See what their policy actually is around these things. What I've kind of seen with my clients that have policies, it's usually about a 6-week break. You can always add on to that. So we cobbled a bunch of things together. I think it was partially using vacation days. It was partially, I don't know if it's technically short-term disability or FMLA. Don't ask me what that acronym is. I think it's Family Medical Leave Act, but it's basically kind of leave that's usually dedicated to extenuating extraordinary circumstances. So I think that partially covered it. And then I think there was probably like a month or month and a half that was unpaid. And I was in a situation where luckily I could handle that just fine. And then same thing with benefits. I think it was, kept my benefits for most of it. And then I think there was a period of probably a month or two, maybe a month and a half, where I went on COBRA. And so COBRA is essentially just, everything's the same. It's your exact employer paid benefits plan, no changes, same doctor, same insurance. The only difference is you pick up the cost. In addition to the cost you already pay that comes out of your paycheck, you pick up the cost that your employer typically pays. So in this day and age, it's probably several hundred more dollars, to me, totally worth it for that continuity of benefits, just to kind of make sure that you have it. But again, because more and more organizations are seeing sabbaticals as a way to reward valued employees, and it's a whole lot easier to allow you to go to sabbatical than come up with a chunk of money. It's not really that much harder, but you know what I mean? Like they're less likely to come up with a chunk of money off cycle. I think a lot of people will get very creative in giving you extra time off and being creative about how to make it as worth your while and the least impact to your bottom line as possible. All right, that's everything off the top of my head. I hope I hit all my points. I'm sure you have questions and points that I didn't address, so please leave your questions and comments below, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.